So let's take a look at where we stopped last time and set up a plan for what we're going to do now. For now, we have this sliding panel. When we click on the toggle button, the sidebar opens, and there is a placeholder for a menu. We are going to replace it with an actual 2-level folding vertical menu with many different menu items. Let me show you the completed project, and then we are going to recreate all the changes once again during this session. This looks familiar. I hope you recognize it. But now, when we open the sidebar, we see the actual menu. It's easier to work on a big screen, so let's do it this way. At the top, there is a company logo. I'll put Mango Sidebar there for now. We have several menu items in this menu. On the first level, they have nice icons. Some of the menu items have a down arrow icon as well. And if you click on this arrow or on the menu item itself, a submenu opens. That makes second-level menu items accessible. By clicking on the arrow icon a second time, you can close the submenu. As you can see, there is a nice transition when the submenu opens and the arrow icon rotates 180 degrees. If you have one submenu open and try to open another one, the first one automatically closes. So, only one submenu can be open at any time. When you click on a menu item, it becomes active and changes color. You can switch between different pages, and the appropriate menu item gets this special accent color. The same thing happens on the mobile screen. You can see, when we are on the home page, the home menu item is blue, and when we go to the dashboard page, the dashboard menu item turns blue. So, this is our goal, and that's what we're going to build today. I copied all of the code from our Mango Drawer project into our Sidebar project. I want these two projects to coexist independently. There are a couple of preliminary things I would like to do now. I prefer to keep my code compartmentalized. If there is a task we have completed, I like to take the code that implements this task, keep it separate, and not mix it with the rest of the code. For CSS, I am using a folding extension for Visual Studio Code called Region Folding for VS Code. You can find it in their extension store. I created a region drawer that includes all the styling for our sliding out panel. So now we can hide this piece of code. Everything related to the region drawer is now hidden. In the case of JavaScript, all the code we have right now deals with our sliding panel/drawer area. We can keep it separate this way. We will move the sidebar element outside. Our menu will be inside the sidebar, so we need the sidebar element to access the different menu elements. As for the rest of the code, we will put it inside an IFE expression. IFE stands for Immediately Invoked Function Expression. Basically, we create a function, execute it right away, and it keeps everything inside a local scope. So, the global variables are not polluted. We're going to pass our sidebar element into this function. It will be like this. Now, we can fold all this area and forget about it for now. Let's go and change our HTML first. This is our sidebar area, and we are going to replace this temporary menu with the actual one. We start from changing this div to a nav. We use nav here, since our sidebar is going to be a primary navigation for the page. I'm just going to copy and paste the ready-made menu here, and then we'll talk a bit about what each element does. As you can see, I added an unordered list here. The first list item contains a company logo. I'll put Mango Sidebar there for now. Then there are first-level menu items, containing links with icons and text. This one, for example, contains the text home. The icon is an SVG image located right above it. Here's how it looks. You can get SVGs in the following way. First, we create an icons folder where we will store downloaded SVG images. Then we go to fonts.google.com/icons, search for an icon by name, and download it. Here we're looking for home. We select the appropriate icon, click the Download SVG button, and save it in the folder we just created. We do the same thing for Dashboard and download the dashboard icon. Then we search for a down arrow to indicate that a menu item has a submenu, and download that as well. When When we go back to the project, we see the downloaded icons right here. We can just copy the icon as text from here and paste it directly into our HTML code. So, the first home icon looks like this, and when I click Save, it is formatted properly by VS Code. If we go to a menu item that has a submenu, as you can see, it's not just a link with an icon as before, it's actually a button. And this button, since it opens and closes the submenu, contains ARIA attributes. This is the Services button, and it controls the Services submenu. The Services submenu is actually an unordered list which contains submenu items. In this case, marketing, SEO, and consulting. This is how it works. Basically, it's the same idea we've seen before with the sliding panel. You have an element that controls another area that can be expanded. It opens and closes it, and this is reflected by changes in the ARIA attributes. In this case, it opens a submenu and shows additional service links. As before, we have an icon right above the text of the link, but here we have an additional icon, a down arrow. This icon was called Key Arrow Down on the Google website. Just to show you that it works, I'm going to replace this SVG with the SVG of the down arrow icon. Let's take a look at what we have right now. This area does contain our menu content, but it's not styled yet, so it looks pretty awful. Our next task is to style it and make it look nice. We start with the top-level unordered list and remove the bullets. As you can see, the bullets that we had here have disappeared. Now we'll style the logo. We'll just add some margin at the bottom and increase the font weight. And here it is. Our logo now stands out much more, and it's separated from the rest of the menu. Next, we're going to apply a consistent look to the menu items. As you remember, we have two types of menu items. Simple ones that are just links, and ones that control a submenu, which are actually drop-down buttons. We remove the underlines from the links and set their color to the document's text color. We'll use Flexbox to display the links, center the elements vertically, and add some gap between the icon and the text. Now it looks much better. For the drop-down buttons, we'll span them across the full width, remove the button borders, and set the cursor to change to a pointer when the button is hovered over. Now the buttons look essentially the same as our simple menu items. Okay, let's continue. This flex grow. One means that the text will take up all available space within the link or button. This actually pushes the down arrow icon to the right. We'll prevent our left SVG icons from being distorted by setting the flex shrink property to 0. We also set SVG fill property to our document text color. Our sidebar area is not scrollable, so when we have a long submenu open, the bottom menu items go off screen and there's no way to reach them. We'll go to our sidebar style that we defined in the previous tutorial and add overflow Y. Auto. After that, as you can see, a scroll bar appears, and we can scroll up and down to see all the menu items. Now we're going to style the active menu items. They will have a different color called accent color, and we want to change the color of both the text and the SVG icon. We go to the place where we defined our CSS variables and set values for these colors. Now our home icon is blue because we're on the home page. We'll also add a hover effect. The link will get a light gray background when we hover over it. And it looks like this works. Now, the three items that go below services actually belong to a submenu, and we need to hide them when the submenu is closed. We want to make a smooth transition when the submenu opens. It shouldn't just appear, it should slowly slide down. And here's a trick to do that. We set the display to grid, and this grid will contain a single cell that holds our submenu items. When the submenu is closed, we set its height to 0 fractions, and when the submenu is open, we set its height to 1 fraction. This one fraction dynamically adjusts to the full height of the submenu. Just to remind you how it looks, here's our submenu, and this is the grid that contains a single cell. The cell will close and open, essentially. Its height will go from 0 fractions to 1 fraction. That's how the submenu opens when the appropriate ARIA tag is set. Now we see the submenu is folded, and we'll eventually add some JavaScript code to implement the folding/unfolding functionality. One more touch. We'll make the arrow button rotate 180 degrees when the submenu is open and go back to its original position when it's closed. First, we'll set up a transition on this SVG element. When the submenu is expanded, we'll rotate the icon 180 degrees. Finally, we want our submenu items to be slightly shifted to the right compared to the first-level menu items. Now I'm going to delete our icons folder, as the SVG icons are embedded in our HTML code, and we don't need them anymore. And those are all the CSS changes we wanted to make. Now it's time to create some JavaScript code to implement some folding-unfolding functionality. Let's go back to our page. Everything seems to look nice, but when we click on the down arrow icon or the text here, which is supposed to open a submenu, it does not open anything. So we need to write some JavaScript to make it happen. When we look at the drop-down button itself in the code, it has a drop-down button class. We need to connect a function to it that will open the submenu when this button is clicked. And this is how we will do it. First of all, we will go through each button of this type and add a click event listener. In the sidebar, we are looking for elements with the class drop-down button. And for each of them, we will add a listener so that when this button is clicked, the function called toggle side menu will be called. We just prepare the function. We are not going to implement it at this very moment. Instead, we will define a show submenu function that will specify how to open and close a submenu. If we go back to the HTML code, we can see that this, for example, is the submenu we want to open, services submenu. It has the ARIA hidden attribute set to true. To open this submenu, we need to set ARIA hidden to false. Also, we need to change the ARIA expanded equals false attribute on the drop-down button itself. The new value needs to be true. There are no other attributes that need to be changed here. Submenu set attribute not value, because this ARIA hidden is kind of the opposite of sidebar shown. Then, we need to get the button that controls the submenu. We select the element with the class drop-down button, where the ARIA controls attribute is set to the current submenu ID. And also, we need to set the ARIA expanded attribute of this button to true. So, we now have a function that shows and hides the submenu. Now we need to create a function that toggles it after the button that is supposed to control it is clicked. We get the drop-down button, and it is event.currentTarget. This also allows us to accept the click event when either of the icons is clicked. The submenu is currently open if ARIA expanded is set to true. Then we need to get the submenu controlled by the click drop-down button. To do that, we will get the ARIA controls attribute, which contains the ID of the controlled submenu. Then we will get the submenu by this ID. Next, we call our show submenu function that we wrote previously. To toggle it, we need to flip the state, so if it was open, it is supposed to close and vice versa. Now we can open and close our submenu. And another one as well. The only thing I don't like about it right now is that you can open 2 or more different submenus at the same time. And this is kind of confusing. So I want to do it like this. When one submenu is open and you try to open another one, it automatically closes the first open submenu. Only after that does the second submenu open. This way, only one submenu will be exposed at any time. Let's write this function, close other submenus, which will close all other submenus except this one. First, we get all the submenus that are shown. These are all the elements with the class submenu and the ARIA hidden attribute set to false. For each open submenu, if its ID is not equal to this submenu's ID, we hide it. That means we call showSubmenu with visibility set to false. This will effectively close the submenu. Now we need to insert it into our toggle submenu function, right here before showSubmenu. The ID of the submenu we need to exclude is this controlled ID. Now on the page, if we click on one submenu and then click on another one, it closes the previous menu. And when this is closed and we try to open this one, another one gets closed automatically. So, as we expected, only one submenu can be open at a time. The next thing is providing a different style for the current menu item. Right now, we have the index page open, and our home menu item gets this accented blue color. Well, it's actually azure, but I will still call it blue. When we go to a different page, like the dashboard page, the dashboard menu item here is supposed to get this accented color. Let's create a few more pages. First, we create a page called dashboard.html. We set the page title to dashboard. Here is the menu item that is supposed to open it. Right now, our home menu has the class active. It is set here at the list item level. We can move it below to make the dashboard menu item active. Let's add a title here to see that we are on the dashboard page. Now we open the site, and we are at home. We go to the dashboard page, and the dashboard menu item gets this blue color. We go back to home, and the home menu item gets this active class. We've made a lot of progress so far, so let's consider our options for what we can do next. After that, we'll take another look at our sidebar and go through a short summary. Let's explore several scenarios for how this sidebar component can be used. I see three options. We can create a static HTML website, a dynamic website with server-side HTML rendering, or a pure JavaScript client-side solution. All of these options are perfectly valid and have their rightful place. First option is making a static HTML website. For a small, presentation-style website with maybe a dozen pages or so, you can essentially repeat the same approach we used when we added 2 more pages. When we create a new HTML page, we need to set the active class on the menu item that opens this page. If this page is on the second level, we also need to expand the first level menu that contains the active menu item. We do this by setting ARIA expanded attribute to true on the drop-down button and ARIA hidden attribute to false on the submenu. Second option is dynamic website with server-side HTML rendering. Basically, you repeat the same process on the server side using the templating language of your choice. Most likely, you would have a data structure that represents the menu. The code will look something like this. You'll have a current URL variable. If a link in the menu matches this URL, you'll need to set the active class on the list item that contains the link. For a second-level menu item, based on your menu structure, you'll know if there is a link within the submenu that matches the current URL. Essentially, a submenu link will be a child, and the first-level menu item will be the parent. You can then check if, for example, the current URL is a child of the services submenu. If it is, you should set the values of the ARIA expanded and ARIA hidden attributes accordingly. I think to explore this approach further, the next thing I will do is create a Flask example. I'm a Python programmer, so choosing Flask seems natural. It will be called Mango Sidebar Flask Edition. And the third option is the pure JavaScript client-side solution. So far, I haven't found a way to do it that I'm happy with. We can use JavaScript on the client side to set the active class and ARIA attributes. However, the issue is that the appearance of the sidebar relies on its internal structure. For instance, whether a submenu should be open depends on whether it contains a link to the current URL. This decision needs to be made before the page is displayed to avoid delays or flickering. So for now, we will stick with the first two options. It will either be a static HTML website or the dynamic website with server-side HTML rendering. Now let's take another look at our sidebar and talk about what we've achieved so far. We've essentially finished our project, so well done for sticking with me so far. Let's summarize what we have achieved. On the desktop screen, we have a sidebar area on the left side of our website. The menu item that corresponds to the current page is shown in a different color, and when we navigate between pages, the appropriate menu item gets highlighted. Some of the menu items have arrow icons that indicate they have a submenu. We can click on this icon to open the submenu. The submenu opens with a nice transition, and the arrow icon rotates 180 degrees. Now, we can click on the menu items from the submenu. Again, the menu item that corresponds to the current page is highlighted in a different color. When we try to open a different submenu, the first one gets closed, so only one submenu can be open at a time. Everything works as we expected so far. When we switch to the small screen, in the mobile version, the sidebar collapses, but we have this hamburger button. When we click on the button, the sidebar slides out. Here, we essentially have the same menu, and we can open and close the sidebar. You can also see how the toggle button icon changes between a cross and a hamburger icon with a transition. We can also change pages. This is Hello World. Our home page and the home menu item is blue. When we open the dashboard page, the dashboard menu item is selected. This is what we were trying to achieve, and we've successfully completed our mission. And in conclusion, I would like to say a couple of words about why I am doing this. I believe it was Stanislavski who said, "The theater begins with the code check." In the same sense, a website begins with the navigation. And the navigation is usually complicated. So, people want to make something simple usually start with a blank page, but they never get too far because without navigation, it's kind of doomed to remain a simple example. You can go to a template website and buy a ready template, but for it to be accepted on such a site, it usually needs to be reasonably complex. And the people who make templates normally have some kind of build system and a lot of pages, and you need to figure all that out before making something productive. And usually, nobody explains to you how their navigation bar works. So, my goal was to create a couple of common responsive navigation solutions, a sidebar and a horizontal navigation bar, which is hopefully upcoming, using vanilla JavaScript and simple CSS. I wanted to avoid any compilation or build process and to meticulously describe all the steps. This way, when you decide to make changes or apply your own styles, you'll know how to do it. You can download the project from GitHub. There are essentially only 3 files, and you can open the JavaScript or CSS file and start writing your code. You can also go ahead and add more HTML pages in the same way I described. You can make a website, or you can make an application. It's your choice. But I hope whatever you decide, you won't get discouraged by the complexity of navigation. Use this as a foundation for your own project. Do something great. Happy coding!